student visa. He's paid by a terrorist organization that beheads babies.
What evidence do you have?
That beheads babies.
Wait.
I have evidence.
So I'm sorry, just to
Then don't come on national TV and say on things. Don't come on national TV.
Do you know who he's being paid by?
I don't, and I'm not alleging that he's being paid.
Are you okay with what he's doing?
I'm not alleging he's being paid because I don't know.
Are you okay with anti-Semitism?
You are coming on national TV and using this platform
Jewish
to spread
students?
things. No, I'm
Are
not.
you okay with
No,
hate speech?
Don't make this up.
Security, if you let me answer you.
Well, Scott.
Do you want me to answer you or not?
Okay.
His organization says we are dedicated on both sides. Anti-Semitism is a scourge on this country. Do not
It absolutely is a scourge on this country, but it was
What the U.S. government had done. I was
Were you
protesting.
occupying buildings?
I was protesting.
Were you fomenting
I was
violence?
doing what that.
Were you inciting others to engage in
I was doing
violence?
what that statute
Were you
said.
chasing
I was
people
against
around?
U.S. foreign policy.
Were you
at the time.
intimidating people?
Okay.
Hello, everybody. Guys, let's get right into this panel. This is amazing. I think Scott Jennings found his match. This guy is even more insane. The racism, hypocrisy from the two of them, incredible. Check this out.
Tonight, a judge freezing in place what critics call chilling and what MAGA allies see as justice. The Trump administration is trying to deport Mahmoud Khalil, the Columbia University graduate and activist who disrupted campus life with anti-Israel protests. He is now in an ICE detention facility in Louisiana. The ACLU calls the punishment intimidation and an unmistakable First Amendment violation. The president is making an example of him and warning that he is the first of many cases that will play out just like this, where protest is punished. I think there's a lot of different views about these campus protests.
I think there should be only one view.
But I think the question here
We know.
is about whether speech can result in people's
He's
legal
a
rights being
virulent
taken away.
anti-Semite. He came here on a student visa. He's paid by a terrorist organization that beheads
evidence?
babies.
What evidence do you have
that
of any of
beheads
that?
babies.
Wait.
I have evidence.
So I'm sorry, just to be clear,
Remember, guys, he said he has evidence. Let's see what he says in a few minutes.
you're alleging that he's paid by
He's a
who?
paid protester.
By who?
Well, I didn't ask my intelligence division exactly who paid for him, but
What's the
he's being
evidence?
paid by.
Hang on.
He's being
That's
paid.
a pretty explosive allegation. Who is he being paid by?
Can I ask you a question?
No, you said you
just
had
really
evidence.
wanna
Who is
know.
he being paid by?
He's being paid by organizations that are anti-American, that are engaged in nefarious
Name them.
activities. I don't ask my intelligence division to
Well,
give
then
me.
don't come on
keep it
national
on- you
TV
gotta
and
keep it
say
on
on
the
things.
playground.
Don't come on national TV.
Do you know who
and
he's
say-
being paid by?
I don't, and I'm not
Are you
alleging
okay?
that he's
Are you
being
okay
paid.
with what he's doing?
I'm not alleging he's
Are you
being
okay
paid by
with
because
that?
I don't know.
Are you
if he's
okay
being
with
paid.
anti-Semitism?
You are coming on
Are you
national
okay
TV
with
and using this
intimidating
platform
Jewish
to spread
students?
things. No, I'm
Are
not.
you okay with
No,
hate speech?
Don't make this about that. Make it about the fact that
That's
you know,
exactly what it's
listen,
about.
that you talk louder doesn't mean anything. You're making this about. You
I'm
are
sorry.
saying things on national TV that you cannot corroborate. That is irresponsible, and you
Well,
should not.
why don't
come
you
and
ask the
use
NYPD
CNN
Intelligence
platform.
Bureau?
Well,
Why don't you ask the FBI and the CIA?
Because I don't speak to
They
them.
know
Let
exactly
them-
what's going on.
If there's evidence,
I'm going to
bring
ask
it out.
you. Hold on. I'm going to ask one.
Could you imagine if Republicans had any principles? You see how vigilant he fights for what he calls anti-Semitism, which it really isn't. It was just protesting the genocide in Gaza. So now think about that. Imagine if Republicans fought like that for clear racism against black and brown people in this country. This is amazing to me.
One more time. Do you know for a fact that he is being paid by another entity, especially a terrorist organization? Can you state that as a fact?
Of course
I can
not.
state with the fact that he is being paid, as the other professional protesters are being paid, by anti-American organizations that are engaged in nefarious activities.
So if that allegation...
That I can confirm.
Okay, so Bruce, I'm just going to say it right here. You've just made that claim. There's no evidence that I know of. There's no evidence that you've provided.
Well, he
of
can
that.
sue me then.
And I mean,
then we'll come out in court.
He's free to do whatever he wants. But the United States government has not made that allegation. They have not made charges against him on that
Of course they made that allegation.
No,
That's
they-
why he's being...
no, they have not.
they have
No,
not.
they-
So,
no,
so
they
this,
have not.
so this is the
They have
chilling
not made that
effect
allegation.
of stomping on the First Amendment. Essentially, you're saying that he's a terrorist. Essentially, you're saying that he's being paid by a terrorist organization because
he's supporting a terrorist organization.
He's not. He's not supporting a terrorist organization.
He gives out pro-Hamas literature. He intimidates Jewish students.
None of that is
engage in
reality.
hate speech.
Like what we have,
They've engaged in violence. Are we
what we
condoning
have,
that now?
What I'm condoning is this. I'm condoning Americans and people all over the world that have an issue with what's happening in Gaza to be able to use their voice legally and peacefully to protest that. And I think that as Americans, we should support that. I think that everyone here has made a big deal about free speech in the last couple of years. I think we've had this conversation culturally, we've had this conversation in the courts. And to me, when I see authoritarianism like this, saying that anyone who has a view that there shouldn't be a genocide in Gaza is a terrorist.
Dan, that's not true. That's not true.
And he makes this claim about they're making whatever pro-Hamas literature. Trump literally used Hitler's exact words. Nothing to see here, nothing to see. Oh, they just happen to use the same words. They just happen to use the same words to describe a minority group just the same way Hitler did. No. It's just a coincidence. These guys are incredibly hypocritical.
Free speech means that you have an area where you can engage in protest, you can be pro-Gaza, you can be pro-Palestinian, you can do all that, and that is condoned and it is allowed. When you intimidate, when you occupy buildings, when you create fear in students that go to school, that's hate speech. That's not protected speech under the Constitution.
Let me just state one thing, Bruce. Or maybe it's a question for you, but all of those things that you're saying, you're characterizing the overall protests at Columbia, which include many other students. One of the things, as I've looked into this, is that he is the leader of the student organization. There were many people involved in this, including many people who were not even a part of that organization. So how do you know that he personally is responsible for any of those things that you're talking about, let alone if you're accusing him of having done something illegal, there have been no charges against him from a legal perspective.
Well, I believe that he's been engaged in hate speech. I believe that he's been engaged in intimidation.
Is hate speech, that's the crux of the question.
I don't think
hate speech grounds for somebody to lose their legal rights in this country?
So remember that MAGA nut job said he had evidence. Now he has this feeling. He has this feeling. F your feelings. Are you insane? I mean, that's a dumb question. You clearly are insane. I mean, this is kind of why I like these panels, because it's clearly not scripted. They might know the topic beforehand, but what they're about to say is not scripted. And it's not the same way that someone could do an interview and be prepared. And so you get caught off guard and you say stupid things out of anger, out of desperation to win an argument. And sometimes the truth gets revealed. And Scott Jennings is about to do the same in a little bit.
I don't think hate speech is actually the issue. He's a resident alien. He can be deported under U.S. law for if the Secretary of State has any reasonable ground to believe he would have a potentially serious adverse foreign policy consequence. And you mentioned the student organization. The student organization put out... Let me finish.
But before you move on, because I think that's a really important point, right? That's the statute that they're using. Have you seen any evidence to suggest that there is actually a serious reason to believe that this student is going to be a threat to national security?
I've certainly watched the abomination that's gone on at Columbia and Barnard and other places, and I will just tell you,
and I'll
just tell you that
I'm not going to let you move on because this is
I'll tell you why it's a threat to national security if you let me answer you.
Well, Scott,
do you want me to answer you or not?
Okay.
His organization says we are dedicated fighting for the total eradication of Western civilization.
Okay.
He's not a citizen. He doesn't need to be here.
I don't want to move on.
In my view, it is
Abby needs to have way more control over these conversations. She should have told Scott, no, let me finish what I was going to say. Like, she shouldn't let him steamroll her like that. He gets cocky and thinks that he could just do this to her more than anyone.
It was a failure by Columbia University. They could have expelled him. They could have banned him from campus. And they should have if he violated their policy. Look, every student has a right to attend school without fear of intimidation, right? But what we are doing here, the message that this is sending is a message to scare anybody from protesting.
Scott,
Anybody who might
No,
be
that's absolutely
a green
wrong.
card holder.
That's absolutely
You just
wrong.
described him having viewpoints that you disagree with. Again, is that enough to have someone lose their rights in this country?
He has viewpoints that, in my opinion, jeopardize the security of the United States.
But how?
He is obviously a radical who is here to foment.
No, he's not a radical at all.
violence against the United States government.
He wants to destroy Western civilization.
Against the United States government.
You're saying
Scott?
eradicate Western civilization doesn't make you a radical?
Has he acted in any way that is
I think he
violence
does.
against the United States government, as you just said?
I think these protests and the violence they have fomented and the intimidation and fear against the Jewish kids on these campuses is absolutely an act of insurrection against the United States.
I don't think anyone here is condoning.
I think that's just amazing. Imagine if he had any of that passion towards how black and brown people are treated in this country, how Trump called them cats and dogs. When that question was put to him, he just paused there for like 30 seconds when asked if that was racist. This dude is disgusting, and it clearly shows his hypocrisy, and it's why I don't mind people like Scott Jennings on these channels, because it just exposes this whole party as just this is the party of nonsense. They have no principles. We're gonna get into that, but they don't believe in family values, law enforcement, like they say they do, Christian values. None of this. It's all garbage with them. That is incredible, and you're going to see more of that.
The irony of you saying that that's an act of insurrection against the United
Of
States.
course, he would love to see this government fall.
When this
Would he
president
not?
just pardoned people.
Yeah, I
let's take a
wonder
step
if you
back.
guys have the same feeling about his organization as you do of like organizations like the Proud Boys or anybody like that was involved in the January 6th insurrection and was
Do not,
important.
have never condoned it.
Wait.
Go ahead, Dan.
Nobody at this table is condoning anti-Semitism. I think we need to take a step back and realize the implications of what the president has done without due process. On his Truth Social post, he not only referenced anti-Semitism, he referenced anti-American speech. Does anyone here know what he means by anti-American speech? Because I certainly don't. And so leaving that up to President Trump, I think there's a lot of Americans out there who would be pretty concerned about him using his own interpretation of anti-American to do things without due process.
Anti-American speech.
He was calling Democrats enemies of the people. Immigrants poisoning the blood of the nation. How do these guys not see these parallels? He pardoned January 6th insurrectionists that he incited, that he himself incited. And these morons refuse to see the parallels in which again, there's no real parallel there with what they believe is going on in Colombia. But in their head, let's give them that. If they don't see the parallel with Trump, these people are disgusting and very revealing.
Scott, that's enough.
Look,
Yes.
Look, what they have engaged in is a clear threat to the United States. And if you want the United States to be overrun by radicals the way Europe has, be my guest. But I think the president needs to stand up for the integrity of the United States.
What is the threat?
That's MAGA. That's how we see MAGA. The country is being ran by complete radical maniacs with very, very little few brain cells.
The threat of our
The
country
threat
being,
is
and our college campuses being overrun by radicals who are trying to run Jewish kids off of campuses
So-
and
They're not
anybody
trying to
else who
run Jewish
disagree.
kids
Yes,
off
they
of-
are.
Oh, yes,
In
they are.
UCLA.
No,
In
they're not.
UCLA.
First of all,
they wouldn't even let them go to class.
First of all, there were
Columbia's an abomination.
First of all, there were violent counter protests at UCLA that were done by Jewish organizations.
No, both sides.
Oh my
This
God.
anti-Semitism is a scourge on this
my
country. Do
gosh.
not
It
both
absolutely
sides.
is a scourge on this country, but what is not a scourge on this country is people that are protesting for the lives of children in Gaza. People that are protesting a war that's gone
They're
on
protesting
way
against
too
the Jewish
long.
people. They
They're
are
not
after the
protesting.
kids.
There are
Who's
many
running them off
Jewish
campus.
kids.
Whose decision
There are many
is it?
Jewish kids, Columbia students, that are out there protesting with people.
One of the
who
things.
believe
So,
in
so let me just show.
He had no argument there. That's why he looks at the camera and just nods. For him to get so passionate, this is a scourge on the Jewish people in this country. I wish, and they would never divert the conversation, but I wish someone at that moment, do you feel the same about black and brown people and racism in this country against them? Amazing. They wouldn't do that because it diverts the conversation away, but it would have been amazing if somebody put that to him.
Beheaded babies, raped women.
Bruce, hold on. Just stop right there for 1 second,
Will
okay?
do.
All right. Because you're also making many more claims that we don't have time to go through right now.
Yeah, Bruce,
Ann
relax.
Coulter, who is no bleeding heart liberal. She says there is almost no one I want to deport, but unless they've committed a crime,
no one I don't
want to deport. Excuse me.
You got that one wrong.
There's almost no one I don't want to deport unless they've committed a crime. Isn't this a violation of the First Amendment? And what she's responding to is a story about Zionist organizations that are preparing a list of foreign, what the New York Post describes as pro-Hamas students, hoping that Trump will deport them. So now we have a system in which allegedly some kids are going to collect names of other students on their campuses, send them to the United States government to have them deported?
Zionists are typically anti-Semites.
I'm sorry.
People who criticize Zionists,
yeah.
yes.
Okay.
Anti-Zionists are people that are anti-Semites. They never criticize any other country. They never criticize Venezuela. They never criticize China. They never criticize North Korea. It's always Israel, Israel, Israel. And that to me is an anti-Semite.
Okay.
You moron. We're not funding the genocide in those countries. Do you not understand that? We're not giving them weapons and money to commit genocide. How do these people not see the difference in this? And it sucks, but we as voters, we only have control over certain things. We can put pressure to stop the funding of genocide, or at least try. But we have no leverage on these other companies in any way. I mean, these other countries, really. As far as at least, voting for us to maybe stop funding them in some way, one way or another. This is unbelievable. We're literally, our tax dollars are going to pay for this genocide. That's the difference, you idiot.
Can I ask you something, though?
But I mean, it's kind of honestly a change of the subject. The question is...
Not for me, it isn't.
Well, no.
So any criticism of the state of Israel is anti-Semitic. Let's just put that. So Israel is a government.
When you only criticize Israel and you criticize them unfairly, and you never talk about Venezuela, North Korea, China, Russia.
This is not a debate about anti-Semitism, to be honest. It's a question of whether just because you make a statement, a political statement, that some people disagree with, you can be targeted for removal from this country. As a student, a group of students collecting a list of people and sending them
it's
to the
the actions too. It's the intimidation. It's the harassment. It's the hate speech. It's the violence. It's occupying buildings.
Don't you think that the government then has to produce some evidence that this particular student was actually engaged in those specific actions?
I think Scott quoted the law very succinctly.
No, but I'm saying...
He's not a citizen.
I'm talking about based on what
He's here as a privilege, not a right.
What you are saying is that it's not the statements, it's the actions. So don't they have to prove that there were actions?
I mean, isn't it pretty clear the actions of what's taken place on the campus of Columbia and dozens, if not hundreds, of
the statute you quoted.
You're saying it's not clear what's going on at Columbia?
Absolutely not. But can I bring this to? Can we take this out of the Columbia thing? Because here's the thing.
Let me just finish my thought, Anna. What I'm saying is that it is not clear that this particular student has engaged in the specific actions that he was talking about. And you've shown me no evidence of that either.
Okay, well, guess what? He is not a citizen. If he were a citizen, I might feel differently. He's a guest in this country.
Okay.
It's my view,
so in other words,
it's the Trump administration.
It's but it doesn't matter.
No, I didn't walk in here with my gumshoe investigative case, Abby. But here's what I do think: this guy's running an organization at Columbia that has ruined 2 solid years of people's lives.
Deported based on allegations that you have not substantiated.
I think he should be deported based on what the Trump administration has already identified. He is a threat to the national security.
But here's the problem. Tonight we're talking about this particular case. But the statute you quoted, it's an obscure statute, old statute that's being used, is about being against U.S. foreign policy, right? So, for example, when I was part of protests in Miami, when the Clinton administration and Janet Reno returned Elian Gonzalez to Cuba,
Were you trying to eradicate Western civilization?
No, I was trying to stop the U.S. government, and I was protesting against what the U.S. government had done.
Were you occupying buildings?
I was protesting.
Were you fomenting violence?
I was doing what that.
Were you inciting others to engage in violence?
I was doing what that statute
Were you
said.
chasing
I was
people
against
around?
U.S. foreign policy.
Were you intimidating people?
Okay,
we were shutting down streets. We were shutting down buildings.
Just to be clear, in President Trump's view, one group of violent protesters that occupied a building, they all get pardoned. The others get shipped off back to their country and excoriated in front. That is a massive, massive, massive hole of hypocrisy right there. And it demonstrates to me that it's not about whether or not you're
Van, we shouldn't get into a debate about parties.
No.
It
It has nothing to do. This is about what they are protesting.
Look, my view is that we're in a fight for the future of Western civilization. This guy's on the wrong side of it, and he don't need to be here.
And if the court rules against the government, this president is going to abide by that ruling?
I hope it goes to the Supreme Court. I think it's a landmark case.
All right,
I do too. I think it will go to the Supreme Court.
Next.
This would set such a bad precedent that the president could just decide, oh, I think they're dangerous to Western democracy. Trump says this about anyone who doesn't vote for him. Like this is a party of conspiracy theories, guys, and the party of no principles. Like, guys, this is supposed to be the party of free speech. Don't say Gulf of America when it's called Gulf of Mexico. No protesting. You get banned from the press briefings. The party of family values. That sounds like a good one. Except that Trump is a sex offender president who cheated on all 3 of his wives. The party of law enforcement, but pardon the January 6th proud little boys who beat the crap out of the police, and a president that's a 34 count felon. Do we have to keep going? Christian values, they don't believe anything that Christian values say, right? These people, like, it's insane. It's all hypocrisy. It's all what they want, and they have no principles. They always try to stand on this principle thing of how things should be. But it's only when once it goes against their ways, free speech can go out the door, law enforcement can go out the door, defund the FBI, like Marjorie Taylor Greene said. Like, these people are incredible. And for them not to see how passionate and vigilant they get to fight against anti-Semitism, which is, sure, I'm against anti-Semitism too, but amazing that they would never, could you ever picture those 2 bozos doing that and standing up against black or Hispanic people or any black or brown people? Amazing. This was incredible. Very exposing panel this time. Let me know what you think about all this in the comments. Please subscribe if you're not. Really helps the channel, and I'll catch you in the next one.